On the morning of June 12, 1962, guards at Alcatraz, a federal prison established in 1933 on a remote island in San Francisco Bay, found that inmates John Anglin, Clarence Anglin, and Frank Morris had vanished. Despite an extensive FBI investigation lasting nearly 20 years, it was never determined whether the men successfully escaped or perished during their attempt. The investigation records start with the escape in 1962 and extend to December 1979, when the FBI officially closed the case. At its peak, Alcatraz was the epitome of maximum security. Situated on a remote island in San Francisco Bay, Alcatraz, nicknamed the Rock, had been used to hold prisoners since the Civil War. However, it was in 1934, during the height of a major anti-crime effort, that Alcatraz was fortified to become the most secure prison in the world. Its later residents included notorious criminals like Al Capone and George "Machine Gun" Kelly, known for their past escapes, as well as unique figures like the infamous Birdman of Alcatraz. In the 1930s, Alcatraz was already a daunting facility, surrounded by the frigid, turbulent waters of the Pacific. The enhancements featured reinforced iron bars, strategically placed guard towers, and rigorous rules, including frequent checks of the prisoners. Escaping seemed nearly impossible. Nevertheless, between 1934 and the prison's closure in 1963, 36 men attempted 14 separate escapes. Most were recaptured or did not survive the attempt. The fate of 3 specific inmates, however, remains unresolved to this day. Here is their story. The escapees. Frank Lee Morris was born on January 21, 1926, in Washington, D.C. At the age of 13, Morris was arrested for drug possession and armed robbery. When he was 18, just a few days after leaving a juvenile detention center, Morris was involved in a bank robbery in Miami Beach, Florida. He was sentenced to 15 years and was incarcerated in a state prison in Louisiana. But after serving 10 years, Morris escaped. A year after his escape, Morris broke into the private residence of a billionaire car dealer in San Francisco to steal valuables. He was caught and, this time, Morris was sent to Alcatraz prison with inmate number AZ-1441. Frank Morris came to Alcatraz in January 1960 after being convicted of bank robbery, burglary, and other offenses, along with numerous escape attempts from different prisons. Later in that year, a prisoner named John Anglin arrived at Alcatraz, and his brother Clarence joined him in early 1961. Like Frank Lee Morris, the Anglin brothers, John Anglin, born May 2, 1930, and Clarence Anglin, born May 11, 1931, also had troubled pasts. At just 14 years old, John enlisted Clarence in a bank robbery, but they were not prosecuted because, besides the fact that they didn't manage to steal any money, as the bank had already closed and all the money had been moved to a vault downstairs, the gun they used was a toy gun. At the age of 28, John again involved Clarence in a bank robbery in Columbia, Alabama. They were caught, and John was sentenced to 15 years in prison, while Clarence received a 20-year sentence because he was found with a Thompson submachine gun. After serving time in the state prison in Leavenworth, Florida, both were transferred to the federal prison Alcatraz with inmate numbers AZ-1476 and AZ-1485, respectively. Another key figure in the Alcatraz escape was Alan Clayton West. Born on March 25, 1929, West was imprisoned for car theft in 1955. While in the state prison in Florida, West planned an escape but was discovered and subsequently transferred to Alcatraz with inmate number AZ-1335. Although West participated in the escape plan with Morris and the Anglin brothers, he stayed behind at the last minute. After completing his sentence, West was arrested again and went to prison 20 more times for theft. The three men were already familiar with each other from prior incarceration. They were placed in neighboring cells and started devising an escape plan. Morris, recognized for his cleverness, spearheaded the planning, with assistance from fellow inmate Alan West. Missing. On June 12, 1962, the usual early morning bed check revealed an unexpected surprise. 3 inmates, John Anglin, his brother Clarence, and Frank Morris, were missing from their cells. Instead, the beds contained ingeniously crafted dummy heads made from plaster, flesh-colored paint, and actual human hair, which had successfully deceived the night guards. The prison was immediately locked down, and a thorough search was launched. In the cells of the missing men, guards found that the grill openings in the concrete back walls, which were 8 inches at 20 centimeters thick, had been painstakingly widened using tools made from spoons stolen from the mess hall. The men had used fake grills, crafted from papier-mâché using paper taken from prison library magazines, to conceal the excavation areas while they were still working. Authorities traced the route taken by Morris and the Anglin brothers through a utility corridor and up the back wall of the cell block, using plumbing pipes as makeshift steps to reach the cell block roof. From there, they climbed through a large ventilation shaft to the roof of the building. They then used a large exterior pipe to slide 50 feet, 15 meters, to the ground, cut through the barbed wire at the top of the perimeter fence, and scrambled down a steep slope to the water's edge. Their movements after this point remain unclear. Gathering the clues, we were promptly informed and requested to assist. Our San Francisco office coordinated with offices across the nation to investigate any records related to the missing prisoners and their past escape attempts, as all 3 had attempted to escape previously. We also interviewed the prisoners' relatives, gathered their identification records, and instructed boat operators in the bay to be on the lookout for any debris. Within 2 days, we recovered a packet of letters sealed in rubber that was linked to the men. Subsequently, some paddle-like wooden fragments and pieces of a rubber inner tube were discovered in the water. A homemade life vest was also found washed ashore at Cronkite Beach. However, despite thorough searches, no additional items were located in the area. Piecing together the plan, as time passed, the FBI, Coast Guard, Bureau of Prisons, and other agencies began to uncover more evidence and reconstruct the clever escape plan. Inmate Alan West, who was unable to escape with the others, started providing valuable information. Here's what we discovered. The escape plan had been in the works since the previous December, when one of the men found some old saw blades, using rudimentary tools, including a homemade drill made from a broken vacuum cleaner motor. The conspirators painstakingly drilled around the air vents in their cells to loosen and remove the covers. They concealed the holes with whatever materials they could find, such as suitcases and cardboard. Behind their cells was an unguarded utility corridor. They navigated this corridor and climbed to the roof of their cell block, where they set up a hidden workshop. Taking turns to keep watch for guards before the final head count, they used a mix of stolen and donated materials to create the necessary equipment for their escape. They converted more than 50 raincoats into makeshift life jackets and constructed a 6 by 14-foot rubber raft, carefully stitching and vulcanizing the seams with steam pipes. They also made wooden paddles and repurposed a musical instrument to inflate the raft. Simultaneously, they sought an exit from the building. Although the ceiling was about 30 feet high, they climbed a network of pipes and managed to pry open a ventilator at the top of the shaft, temporarily securing it with a fake bolt made of soap. The escape. On the evening of June 11th, they were prepared to make their escape. However, West's ventilator grill was not fully removed, leaving him behind. The other three managed to access the corridor, collect their gear, and ascend through the ventilator to the prison roof. From there, they descended the bakery smokestack at the rear of the cell house, scaled the fence, and made their way to the northeast shore of the island, where they launched their raft. The mystery continues. What happened next remains unknown. Did they successfully cross the bay, reach Angel Island, and then navigate Raccoon straight into Marin County as they had planned? Or were they overwhelmed by the wind and waves? Many have made efforts to prove that the men could have survived, but the question persists, did they? Our investigation at the time led us to a different conclusion for the following reasons. Crossing the bay, while some young individuals have managed the more than mile-long swim from Alcatraz to Angel Island, the strong currents and icy waters of the bay made survival highly unlikely for these men. 3. If by land, the escape plan, according to our informant, included stealing clothes and a car once on land. However, despite the high-profile nature of the case, we found no evidence of such thefts, family ties. There was no evidence to support the notion that the escapees received assistance. The families seemed to lack the financial resources to provide significant help. Missing in action. Over the 17 years we investigated the case, no credible evidence surfaced to suggest the men were alive, either in the US or abroad. The FBI officially closed the case on December 31, 1979, and handed over the investigation to the U.S. Marshals Service, which continues to look into the matter in the unlikely event that the trio is still alive. Suspicious clues. In January 1965, the FBI received information suggesting that Clarence Anglin was living in Brazil. However, agents found no evidence of his presence in the country. In 1967, a horse jockey from Maryland told the FBI that he had been Morris's neighbor for 5 years, but this turned out to be a false lead. Notably, since 1964, the Anglin family had been receiving Christmas postcards each year, signed either Jerry or Jerry and Joe, nicknames for John Anglin and Clarence Anglin from their youth. In 1989, at the funeral of the Anglin brothers' father, 2 unknown men with beards appeared, stood by the casket for a few minutes, and then disappeared. On January 12, 2018, 56 years after the Alcatraz escape, the San Francisco Police Department in California unexpectedly released a handwritten letter from John Anglin, sent to the Richmond Police Department in 2013. The letter claimed that since the escape, John had lived in Seattle, Oregon for many years, and in North Dakota for 8 years. At the time of writing, based on the postmark, John was believed to be living in Southern California. According to the letter, both Morris and Clarence had died in 2005 and 2008, respectively. I am John Anglin, who escaped from Alcatraz with Clarence Anglin and Frank Lee Morris in June 1962. I am 83 years old and in poor health due to cancer. If you, referring to the police, publicly announce on television that I will not be sent back to prison and that I will receive medical care, I will reveal my exact location. This is not a joke. San Francisco police reported that after receiving the letter, both the California police and the FBI spent 5 years searching for John Anglin with no results. David Widner, a nephew of the Anglin brothers, confirmed that his grandmother, the mother of John and Clarence Anglin, had received Christmas postcards from Uncle John and birthday roses from Uncle Clarence. Recently, a facial recognition program from an Irish company analyzed a set of data and discovered an image believed to be the Anglin brothers in a photograph taken in Brazil 13 years after their escape from Alcatraz. The photo, taken in 1975, showed two long-haired men wearing sunglasses, and the system confirmed their identities as John and Clarence Anglin with a 99.7% probability. However, aside from this announcement, no other verifiable information or evidence of the Anglin brothers' presence in Brazil has surfaced since their escape. Many clues and theories have been proposed, but the notorious reputation of Alcatraz has only added to the mystery and intrigue of the escape. Regardless of the outcome, these prisoners have left both law enforcement and the public guessing and searching for answers. Whether they drowned or successfully escaped remains an unanswered question to this day.